Would you like to learn about role-based access control? If so, this video is for you. Hi, my name is Mike Gibbs, and in this video we're going to cover what is role-based access control, the benefits of role-based access control, how role-based access control works, the types of role-based access control, and then best practices with role-based access control. So, to begin, what is role-based access control? Role-based access control is really part of an organization's identity and access management strategy. So, what is identity and access management? It's really about determining who the user is, or who they claim to be. So if we have a Cindy that wants to sign into the system, we need to know that Cindy is Cindy versus, say, someone like Sunny. We then need to determine what level of access Cindy has, because not everybody needs access to the same systems, and then keeping track of what they've done. So when we talk about role-based access control, we're really talking about the permission someone has, that authorization of what a user will be allowed to do. So we have two ways that we can do this. We can manually assign permissions to every single user. Cindy gets access to this. Sunny gets access to that. Billy gets access to this. Joey gets access to that. And if we only have 4 users, that's pretty simple. We just create permissions for each user as part of our identity and access management strategy. But now imagine we're an enterprise with 200,000 employees. Do we want to manually assign permissions to every single user? And if we were to manually assign permissions to hundreds of thousands of users, how much time will that take? And is there a lot of opportunity to make mistakes? Because we'd need a team of hundreds of people to do this, and I'm sure periodically somebody's going to get the wrong permissions due to just human error. So the reason we use role-based access control, and what is access control, is it's a means to simplify our organization's identity and access management strategy. So what is role-based access control? Instead of creating different permissions for every single user, we will create a role. A role for a systems administrator, a role for a sales rep, a role for an executive. And then we will assign permissions to those individual roles, and then we will add our users to the individual roles. So if I'm Mike, and Mike is part of systems administrator, Mike will have access to all the privileges that all systems administrators have, which makes it very easy from an operations perspective to add people to the organization's identity and access management system. So simplifies management, enhances security because there's less opportunity for us to make mistakes. It scales very well. And the issue of compliance, especially in heavily regulated organizations like healthcare or finance, we need to make sure that only the right people have the right access to what they need. So that is what role-based access control is about. So how does it really work? And I partially covered this. We create a role based upon the person's responsibility. So we take a job title and a job classification, and we create a role. Then we determine what the users in those roles need to perform their jobs, and we provide no additional access, and then we grant permissions to those roles. Then the last thing that we have to do is we pop the user in the role that's related to their job, and then everything just works, and it works smoothly. So now you know what is role-based access control. Now there is a couple of different kinds of role-based access control. Core role-based access control is basically at the basic levels, users are assigned to roles, and roles have permissions, exactly like we just talked about. Now there's something called hierarchical role-based access control, and this is going to support role hierarchies. So if we have the CEO of a business, and the CEO of the business has permissions for everything, and we preside, the special super permissions, we don't need to go lower and assign permissions to every single resource, because we've already granted them at the highest level access to everything. That is hierarchical. So people of greater privileges or greater access will be able to access things of lower security levels or clearance levels. Kind of like if you've got top secret clearance, you can do everything less than top secret and up to your level of top secret clearance in, say, a military context. So the next is something called constrained role-based access control. What is that? In a highly secure environment, they'll often separate the duties of two people. So you might have two different systems administrators. Systems administrator 1 can access these systems, and systems administrator can access these systems. And in control role-based access control, we might need to further constrain people's access based upon separation of duties if it's critical necessary for their job. So now you know what is role-based access control. So let's talk about some best practices with role-based access control, which a lot of people call RBAC. Well, first, we should never give people access to more information than they need. It's typically called the principle of least privilege, and we grant the minimum level of access necessary for people to do their jobs. We must regularly audit people's permissions, because maybe we have a systems administrator who needed access to a whole lot of stuff, and now they're in management and they no longer need access to these systems, so we will cut their access to the things that they would need to do as a systems administrator and then give them manager access, which might include access to, say, HR systems or salary systems, even though they may not need to log into certain Linux systems anymore. So we also need to clearly document roles, permissions, and user assignments so that we need to understand what they are, we can change them, new people can come in and out, etc. And when we have the opportunity to use tools to automate things like role assignment and permissions management, we should do so because it will eliminate human error, which is something we always want to try to do. Some things to consider when designing role-based access control systems and some challenges that can pop up. One is the things called role explosion. I've seen organizations that end up creating so many roles that they're almost assigning things per user. And that removes all the scalability and all the reasons we're using role-based access control in the first place. We have to remember that business is dynamic, and changes to the business must need to be able to change these roles and these permissions very simply. If we've got lots of compliance, we must make sure that the roles and permissions meet the regulatory requirements, for example, healthcare and in HIPAA as to regards to who can access, say, what kind of information. And we really need to train users and administrators on role-based access control policies. So now you know what is role-based access control, why we use it, and the benefits that it brings organizations. If you're looking to get your first cloud architect, AI architect, enterprise architect type job, please look to the description in this video, because we've got free webinars, free ebooks, and so many things to help you in your IT architecture career. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to be notified of new videos to help you in your IT architecture career. This is Mike Gibbs signing off for now. I hope to see you in a webinar on Zoom or in another video very soon. Take care.